For more on this subject and what's happening in our country, I want to bring in Congressman Mike Waltz now. He represents Florida's 6th Congressional District. He's a great combat veteran and a member of the House Armed Services Committee as well. Sir, good to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks, Vince, and prayers for the loss in North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, but really for the missing and those that are desperate and stranded. And thank God for the Cajun Navy, what I'm calling the Florida Man Air Force. I know a number of Florida volunteer groups that have flown helicopters up there, but these people should not be suffering like they are. Once again, this administration on its back foot, not prepared and in reactive mode, whether it's this, the port strike, Afghanistan, yes. Iran, we could go down the list.
You know, Congressman, one of the things I'm struck by is that when disasters happen almost anywhere else in the world, we often see U.S. military resources deployed to help people in foreign nations. And we see aircraft carriers pull up, and we see Marines on the ground delivering humanitarian supplies. It's featured in the advertising for the United States military, how helpful we are to other countries. Yet yesterday was the first time that the Biden administration decided that they would deploy just 1,000 soldiers from what was once known as Fort Bragg. Why is it taking so long to mobilize American military, so much of which is in North Carolina, to help Americans?
Well, yeah, that's what I've been asking, right? This should have all been pre-prepared, all the orders done, all the preparation done, and then if you don't need it, fine. But it wasn't done because, again, this administration doesn't get ahead of anything. But let's compare back to 2005 with Hurricane Katrina. President Bush was pilloried. I mean, just dragged through the coals by the mainstream media, by Democrats, when he waited a whopping 48 hours to go down there and survey. Biden, it's been a week. And then the 82nd Airborne was mobilized and sent to Louisiana. They're literally right down the street from the devastation in western North Carolina. And they have field hospitals, they have water trucks, they have pallets upon pallets of MREs, and they have an entire brigade's worth of helicopters that can get into those impassable mountains. Now, I don't want to take away from what the North Carolina National Guard is doing, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to the resources of the active duty Army, the 18th Airborne Corps, the 82nd Airborne, and then a little bit further down the road, you've got the Camp Lejeune with the Marines. And I'm talking to some of these folks. They're ready to go. You also have the Special Operations Command all right there.
Yes.
They're ready to go. They have medics. They have supplies.
Yes.
And they're waiting on the Pentagon. And the 1,000 was a drop in the bucket way too late.
And you have Marine Corps Air Station New River right nearby. You have Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point. You've got all these guys who are standing by, great Americans, all waiting to help, and nobody's even asking them to. And the rest of us are wondering what the hell's going on. The other piece that we keep seeing all these reports that rescue efforts are being impeded in some sense. At least one private helicopter owner has been trying to rescue people, was told that he'd be subject to arrest if he continued to. You have Pete Buttigieg saying that drones and other aircraft, it's a no-fly zone. You're not allowed to fly a drone. That seems awfully familiar, Congressman. That's like the time they shut down drone traffic over the border because they were embarrassed by the images. What's going on there?
I'm not sure. I don't want to speculate too much. I do know that when you have a lot of aircraft flying around, you want to be careful, obviously, having civilian drones around, particularly in some of these kind of congested valleys. So I'll try to give them some benefit of the doubt there. But, heck, when you have Americans starving, running out of medicine, running out of water, and you have fellow Americans trying to fly it in on their own dime and in their own money, again, that's what the military can do. They have mobile air traffic control command centers.
Yeah.
You make everybody register, you make everybody check in, and you use the volunteers that are willing to step up and help their fellow Americans. You don't just tell them no. And so, I think this was a lack of planning, a lack of coordination, and it's just par for the course with the lack of leadership from Mayor Pete, from Secretary Austin, from this administration. It's totally unacceptable.
I saw Sean Davis over at The Federalist has had a lot of good coverage on what's going on. He said he got a text from a doctor friend whose family lives in a tiny mountain town that's just north of Asheville that's been destroyed by the flooding. And the quote from the friend was, quote, "People are getting insulin by donkey, and FEMA's response is $750 and wait for 3 weeks." So we're at a point where we have American citizens who are getting deliveries from pack mules, and I don't know how the administration looks at this and goes, "We'll get to eventually."
Yeah, and clearly Kamala, because she frankly probably doesn't know any better. I mean, that is a program where FEMA. I'm from Florida, right? We do this. We go through this all the time, where FEMA can give you some kind of some immediate cash if the ATMs are down, the gas stations are down. But that is one of a whole slew of programs that FEMA offers. But that's not the message when you come in the middle of a disaster like this. It was completely tone deaf on her part. It wasn't to read from talking points. It's to say, we see you're suffering. It's all hands on deck. I just mobilized the 82nd Airborne. The Marines are coming. The National Guard is here. I mean, and I assure you, we're not leaving until every American is cared for and saved. That's what a leader does. And by the way, President Trump was there within hours of down in Georgia of this disaster. Why has it taken them so long? And it makes Americans believe that they just don't care about them. And we haven't even started talking about the political overlay here. There's already a lot of concerns. Not time for politics. Got to save people. But I don't know how these people are going to vote in just a few weeks. And these are incredibly rural, red areas.
Yes.
In North Carolina.
Right. So as I understand it, just so as long as we're talking about the politics of it here, the impact specifically on those voters, Asheville, North Carolina is the one region that's a pro-Biden region. At least it was in the past. They went pretty widely for Biden. But the rest of the affected area of the storm, those look like pretty ruby red pro-Republican districts. Is that right?
My understanding is President Trump won those districts by over 200,000 votes. In 2020. Right now, the Postal Service literally can't get the ballots out to people, much less get them back.
Right.
And I have not heard any kind of coherent plan from Governor Cooper, or even, hey, by the end of the week, we will present a plan, plan for how he is going to make sure that these people can exercise their constitutional right to vote.
Yes. Yeah. Like a functioning government is a regular Ron DeSantis-style press conference, constantly giving you updates on all of these things. Roy Cooper in North Carolina has not been doing that.
Transparency. And look what Governor DeSantis just did today. I mean, we have 16 major ports in Florida. 30% of the nation's food comes into Florida over the winter. Half of Florida's fuel comes through just Tampa. And he just mobilized the Guard and the State Guard to make sure our ports stay open. While Buttigieg thinks about maybe trying to drive a deal with the longshoremen. So that's leadership stepping in with the lack of leadership coming out of Washington.
Do you think that's achievable? I'm fascinated by that move today by Governor DeSantis sending in the National Guard. He says he wants to try and get port operations reopened, as you point out. Can it be done?
Well, look, the U.S. military can open up ports, runways, water distribution, air traffic control. They're trained to do it anywhere in the world. And so can they operate all 16? I don't know, but I know they're going to step in for a number of our major ports like Jacksonville, Miami, and Tampa to make sure that our economy can continue to function. But, the point is, where was Buttigieg, months ago in terms of driving this deal and making sure this doesn't become a crisis? We have over 50 container ships sitting out in the ocean right now with everything we need to make our economy go.
Yes.
And that is only going to magnify. It's going to escalate exponentially in the coming weeks.
Yeah, this contract had a drop-dead date. They knew this was coming for months, and they still didn't resolve it, as you point out. If I can, Congressman, and thank you for your time, Congressman Mike Waltz.
Sure.
Alejandro Mayorkas, the DHS secretary, now saying that FEMA just doesn't have enough money to help Americans during hurricanes for the rest of the year. They need more money. But we also have all of these reports that DHS, the umbrella agency, they've given $640 million at least to illegal immigrants here in the United States and the services that traffic them. Help us understand this. How is it that illegal foreign nationals are getting so much money, but Americans are left with hat in hand?
Well, and the House DHS committee actually put out a report that said it was $2.7 billion that have gone to shelter, transport, house, and I guess give walking money to them. It's probably more than $750 to illegal immigrants. Now, Mayorkas just came out with a statement and said, hey, members of Congress saying that we can take from one pot of money and put it into another is false. That's baloney. Look at what this administration has done by executive order when it wanted to. Heck, it's done student loan forgiveness when it was patently batted down by our court system, and they still did it when they wanted to. So it's much easier for them to throw the blame on Congress, to say if only Congress would do their job, we'd have more money to help people. They could shuffle money internally. They can do what they, in these emergency situations, they can put emergency executive orders in place. And believe me, they have plenty of it. And oh, by the way, before Congress went on recess to get through the election, it passed another $20 billion to make sure that FEMA's emergency accounts are full.
Yeah. All right, Congressman, before we let you go, I know you've got a new book coming out on October 22nd. The title of this book is Hard Truths, Think and Lead Like a Green Beret. Tell us what you set out to do with this book.
Well, thanks. It's the attributes that I have learned being in combat in the Middle East and Afghanistan, all across Africa, everything from restraint to discipline to perseverance and resilience. And the mindset of a Green Beret that's different and unique from my Navy SEAL and Army Ranger brothers and sisters, and what makes it so unique that we embed with local cultures, we have to learn local languages, and we operate by, with, and through our surrogates, our proxies, our allies. How I've applied that to this insanity in Washington, D.C. and our current political environment. And thanks for mentioning it. All the proceeds go to veterans charities. Please go out and check it out.
Yeah, all right. That's, again, October 22nd. Pre-orders are already available. The book, Hard Truths, Think and Lead Like a Green Beret. Congressman Mike Waltz, so grateful for your time today. Thanks for coming on with us.